Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host Tate Hour, and we are back with a brand new episode of our Game of Thrones discussion/review series. We should probably think of a name for this series, but just
it's
call
a Game of Thrones discussion. Does it really need a name?
Exactly. So how this works is we just break down the whole episode. We take it in regions, so we go from the northest point of the map to the southernmost point, and we just talk about everything that happened and some speculation along the way and where we think it's all going. So this is on episode 3. This is Oathbreaker. And right from the bat, based on the title, I thought this was going to be a spin on Oathkeeper, which is Brienne's sword. So I thought that Brienne was going to have something to do with this episode. But didn't quite work like that.
She wasn't in the episode at all.
No, she was not. And the title pretty much falls in line with Jon Snow's character arc in this particular episode.
I would say there was a couple of oaths broken in this episode.
Yeah, but we're going to get into that right now.
We'll talk about each oath broken as we go through, because there was an oath broken in almost every region.
Yeah, so right, let's start at the northest point, and you can't get more north than Beyond the Wall. So let's talk Bran and the tower.
Let's talk about no point more north than Beyond the Wall by going back down to the Tower of Joy, which is in the south.
Yes.
I'm not a book reader. Oh, I'm up to book 2, but I know how much people wanted to see this.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that is one of the best sword fights they've had on Game of Thrones, if not the best. If you compare it to the Mountain of the Viper, which is really the only other big sword fight they've had, like in the show, of recent memory, this is huge. This is amazing choreography, amazing filming, and it seems to go on for quite a while.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the actual timings of it was, but it felt like 2 minutes for a fight, which is pretty good for a sword fight.
And although it's pretty obvious where that storyline's going, when Bran is sort of unceremoniously ended, and I was joking with my friend earlier in the car because he watches it as well, where we was comparing it to Inception, and it was like he was given the kick, so he had to get out of the dream because he'd gone too deep into the dream level. But it does entice you. It does leave you wanting more, and we know where it's going to go. But
I don't know. There are 2 theories to the to what's actually in the Tower of Joy, which I've seen other frontrunners.
I should have said this at the start. This is all spoilers.
Oh,
we are
big-time spoilers.
The entire episode, so you are warned. Okay,
so we've got the R plus L equals J, which is the obvious one. So Lyanna and Rhaegal were in love.
They got it on.
They did get it on, and because they wanted to keep it secret, Lyanna, on her deathbed whilst giving birth to Jon Snow, says, "Take care of Jon, like raise him as your own and stuff like that. Keep it secret so that he doesn't get his head lobbed off by Robert, who would have killed any Targaryen kid, even if it was Lyanna." The other theory coming into play has to do with Howland Reed. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't. I haven't heard this one.
It's called the Twins, and if you have a look, both John and Mira Reed are the same age. They look kind of similar, and Howland Reed and names Sean Bean's character Ned Stark both were at the Tower of Joy at the same time. They were the only 2 people to survive from that fight. They go up into the tower. Lyanna has twins. Now, here's the situation. They can't keep them together because if one gets discovered, they're both dead. So they split them up. Howland takes one, and
they Luke and Leia it.
But here's the thing: the Reeds and Howland Reed, very reclusive, keeps it very secret and stuff like that. Doesn't really go out into the world and talk to many people, as is said in the books from me reading online, stuff like that. Ned Stark, however, he's a prominent figure. He's Warden of North and stuff like that. It's difficult for him to go like, oh yeah, shit, is this kid? So he names him as bastard, whilst Howland Reed may have already legitimized Mira. So maybe that comes into play. But those are the 2 theories. All they know is that most people know there's a kid in there.
I think it's going to be more R plus L equals J, in all honesty. I think that's where they're leading it up. But it's cool that there are other theories out there.
There was also Hodor theory, which was...
Hodor?
There is a genuine... No, there is a Willis theory or Hodor theory, which was how Hodor got his powers, but that was kind of debunked this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
What do you mean, like his super strength or like his?
no, this was basically Howland Reed walked into. Willis came along as like the squire to the battle. He then got walked into when Howland Reed was injured, and he was the one who killed Sir Arthur Dayne in the end because he got walked without like having permission. That messed with his head, and that's how.
Okay.
But
That's
that kind of got debunked.
Yeah, that got completely debunked.
That would have been awesome to see because it would have given the origins to Hodor. It would have said everything. No, we didn't get to see that.
Sadly, it wasn't.
It was a good fight, and the other thing from that scene was Bran can alter the past.
I don't know if it can alter the past because maybe that's how the past actually happened. You know, if we're going with that kind of time travel thing, I think it's sort of.
This is just becoming a time travel show, isn't it?
He can like permeate the past slightly. I don't think he can change events and things like that, but he can have like some kind of spiritual connection, presence to it.
Or he can shout out to people, or he can cause, I don't know, people to twitch and stuff like that in the past.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about the choreography, yes, this was an awesomely choreographed fight, and it just made me look back on Series 5 again. And do you remember that piss poor fight that was in
Sand Snakes?
That was so bad.
Fight. Someone put it to the Benny Hill music, and it was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen.
I don't know if they've got a different choreographer on board now, or if that other guy's just like been really boning up on actually how to choreograph a fight. This one was a darn sight better. And Arthur Dayne as well. Dual wielding swords. I'm not actually sure it's possible to dual wield those kind of swords, but I don't care because it was cool. But
someone also pointed out that one of his swords that he was holding, you could see the sun symbol on it, which was the sword of the morning.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to look out for that. But
there were so many little neat things in that scene that people have pointed out online and stuff like that. It's really cool to see.
No, I missed that completely. And this is actually a conviction. What was I going to say? This is actually a thing of mine. I read the books. I read all of the books. The last couple of books I may have zoned out of slightly because they are very plodding and very boring.
You were just kind of sat here just like, oh yeah, I'm just reading. Yeah, done. Cool. Next.
It's like you check and you've got like a 34-page Daenerys chapter coming up, and you're like, oh
no. No, it was in the earlier books with the like 40-page Bran chapters, and I was just like, oh my god, he can't do anything at this stage. He's just a cripple. When will this end?
So this is my confession. I've read the books. I didn't remember anything involving the Tower of Joy in the books. Now I know they're there because everyone's talking about it and was excited for it. I just sort of got caught up in the whole thing of like, oh yeah, Tower of Joy is a thing. Yeah, this is like when Ned Stark. I
think it's. I'm not sure whether it's mentioned or it's actually a chapter. I don't think it's a chapter of the book.
I think it's a brief mention, like the lore.
I think it's been mentioned throughout by different characters, saying there was a legendary fight, 7 versus 3, although they made it 7 versus 2 in this one and made Sir Arthur Dayne dual wield swords, which is also pretty badass.
That counts as 2, right?
You never know. There may be another knight sat up in the castle guarding Lyanna. So,
but yeah, I thought that was cool. The one thing is, I haven't quite got my head around this. The actor they've got playing young Ned Stark. I can only imagine that when he got older, his face just kind of decompressed. Because his face is kind of.
It looks really close. It's a really good match. I think they did good casting there.
Yeah. But yeah, that was also the one thing I didn't like about this bit is that Bran is painfully narrating everything that's happening. Like the bit where Howard Reed comes behind him, he's like,
my dad told me that he won and he was a better fighter. And the other dude's just like, yeah, your dad lied, bitch.
Like, he stabbed him in the back, and I was like, thanks, Bran.
Yeah, we can all see that, Bran.
Yeah. But Max von Sydow as well, when it goes back to the bit, he basically put an end to what my speculation was, that he's going to be wired into that tree, because he says, you are not going to become me, you will travel back. He says something along those lines that he's not going to stay up there. So that's cool. Hopefully they kind of skip over most of the journey back down towards the south, because that will take a long time.
Chris, just remember, it took an entire Hobbit film to get back. They could stretch us up to...
That was done in a montage, I think you'll find. In Battle of Five Armies, that was done in a montage.
Well, Bran walking couldn't really be done in a montage, could it?
Well, he can't walk, can he? So it would be like crawling in the montage.
That's probably.
That's why it takes longer.
Imagine watching it in real time.
Oh god, like time lapse.
No, that would be. Do you know what? Online marketing, viral, just Bran crawling back, and then as soon as Bran gets to Castle Black, that's when the series restarts.
Oh god, you best start it now then, so it's got a anyway, so
let's go to the wall.
Let's crawl back down to the wall. We have a lot of Jon Snow stuff to talk about. So this was one of George's concerns, was that they were going to drag out this whole resurrecting Jon Snow thing, but boom, episode 3, he's back in it. So glad they've got to it that quick.
I liked that there was so much silence in the scene when he actually came back. Like, it was just like, he was like, oh shit, what's going on? But he wasn't saying anything, and it was just brilliantly done. And he was just looking at Davos like, the fuck am I doing here? What's going on? And everything about that scene.
Didn't Davos leave the room? I thought they all left the room and he like resurrected on his own with no company.
Just remember, like, he was probably sat there breathing for at least like 10-15 seconds. It wasn't an immediate cut between episodes. It may have been like 1 minute or something like that, whilst he was just kind of like still. Davos must have heard him or something like that. Open the door. Maybe it was getting him stuff to burn him or something like that. You never know. But he opens the door and it's just like, oh, he's back. Okay. But yeah.
But with Kit Harington as well, like, I don't think he's a fantastic actor. I know a lot of people are probably going to bitch about me now. And maybe that's just the character of Jon Snow, but he does play it very monotone and very, not much going on. But I really like how he's playing Jon Snow now, because you can tell that he is playing a guy that has been affected in some way.
Yeah.
So he goes up to Dolores Ed at the end and he says, are you still the same Jon Snow in there? Is he still in there? Yes, he is, but he is playing it slightly differently.
Yeah.
There's a sort of emptiness to him now, and you can sense that through his portrayal of the character, and I really like how he did that. Like the bit where he wakes up and he's like looking at all like the puncture wounds and the knives, things like that. You can tell that this has had a mental effect on him, and he's trying to adjust to it to himself, even by the end of the episode where he walks away. I know I'm jumping ahead to the end of his character bit, but where he walks away at the end, just in this one episode, he gets so much character stuff and how he just changes. So no, I loved all the Jon Snow stuff this episode.
Going with that, referring back to people who may or may not have been confirmed for this series and people who have been resurrected before.
Yep.
When previously mentioned, they said, you always lose something when you come back. And I genuinely think Jon has lost his fucks to give.
Yeah. Which is everywhere. He just hangs Ollie, Alistair Thorne, and 2 other guys.
I had a lot more respect for Alistair Thorne at the end of this episode, and a lot less respect for Ollie. Because Ollie was consumed by so much hate that he didn't actually see the bigger picture, and he didn't see how it would benefit him at all. He was just focused on that hate. Alistair Thorne gave a valid argument for and against, and he basically stood by his own morals, and he said, look, I would do it all again, and I respect you. And they had a mutual respect in the end. I think that was quite a nice close-off for his character. However, someone pointed out on Reddit that in a photo, when the hanging actually starts, Alistair Thorne, who says he's accepted his death, is trying to break his thumbs, which are tied behind his hands. So his hands are back behind him. He's trying to break his thumbs so he can break loose.
See, I've always liked Alistair Thorne. I think that I don't know the actor's name, but he is a fantastic actor and he's played the character so well. And although he's been just like a raging dick towards Jon the whole time, you're right, there is that respect, and there is that like when you saw it was in episode 9 of series 3, or was it series 4, the Battle at the Wall? That was
series 4.
Yeah. He is like leading the charge. He is like down there in the courtyard. He is fighting wild.
He cares about the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
And he knows what the jobs of the Night's Watch have gone with, and he's very by the books in that way. However, Jon is looking at the wider picture, and he's saying, look, I went by the books, I lost. It's now your job to protect the wall without me kind of holding you back. You're going to become a loose cannon. And it was fair enough, and I understand why Jon kept him there at the wall. It was a stupid decision in the end, but I can understand that he needed Alistair Thorne there.
He was one of his best
kind
men.
of hold him back, just to say, even if every single time Jon would just ignore his comment, him saying you're making a terrible mistake here, think about what the watch means to you and stuff like that, it did help.
Yeah, and I don't think he's lying when he says that I have given my life to the Night's Watch. He gets a really, really nice closing line. I can't remember what it is now. I'd have to give it a second viewing, but he says, like, I lived, I fought, and now I rest, or something like that. So he accepts his fate. I really like that, but as you said, he is trying to break his...
He's trying to break his thumb so he can break free.
But with Alistair Thorne as well, you can see the flip side to it. Like, I know Jon Snow's trying to unite everyone because he's seen this greater evil that's at Hardhome, which was one of the best endings to any episode I've ever seen on TV. It was fantastic.
Whilst not many other Watchmen actually saw what happened at Hardhome, in fact, the people who saw what happened at Hardhome were not the people who stabbed Jon. They were the people who were in the room with Davos guarding his body.
But like Alistair, I know he believes in the White Walkers and stuff out there, but he hasn't properly seen it, not to that force anyway, with the Night's King there. So you kind of see where he's thinking. He's a traditional guy. He wants to uphold the morals at the Wall. He says this is how all of the Lord Commanders have done it. We've always been fighting the Wildings. So you can see that flip side. And even with Ollie, it was the Thenns, wasn't it, who murdered his family in front of him. So you kind of see that side to it, but I don't think they've done a great job after that, carrying and continuing his character. There's not really been much pathos with him. He's just been sort of like a bratty, angsty little kid. So I kind of cheered when he got the drop. But no, and then after that, so when Jon Snow carries the order, he passes the sentence, he swings the sword and kills them. And then he just leaves. That was a shock to me because I thought he was going to stick around. But this is a guy who's just sort of doesn't really have anything else to do now. He gives the Lord Commander position to Dolorous Edd, although, isn't it done with a vote? It's like a democratic vote deciding on the new Lord Commander, but Jon Snow...
Usually the democratic vote is done by the Maester. There is no Maesters there at the Wall now. The Wall is being held at this present moment in time, as of this episode, by the Wildlings. Yeah.
Which is really surreal when you think about the history of the Wall. That's awesome.
So,
but,
if you think about it, like, I think Jon Snow's character arc going so far is he's lost all of his loyalty to Night's Watch. They were the ones who stabbed him. Those ones who killed him. He respects Dolorous Edd as a friend, but he doesn't respect the Watch anymore.
Yeah.
What you would like to do is, first of all, first thing he did was get revenge on everyone who killed him, or at least the people, just so he sent out a message, the main people who killed him. And then he immediately quit. If he'd quit first, then killed them, it wouldn't have reflected good on him. The fact that he killed them whilst he was still in command was meaning he was able to get his revenge. I think he's going to go on the warpath and get revenge on everyone who's done him wrong.
Well, we've been speculating and predicting what we think is going to happen at the end with Jon Snow. It's going to be the Battle of the Snows. So I think it will definitely amount to that. But as of the end of his character moment, at the end of this episode, I don't know where he's going to go in the interim period before he gets to that point.
I have a feeling, well, if we look at the next time episode, the next time in Game of Thrones, Sansa arrives at the Wall. That's going to be a clear miss because all of the Starks always miss each other by one episode.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
So,
I always hated that stuff.
I think what's going to happen is Jon will go back with the Wildlings and live with the Free Folk for a while. He'll amass an army. He'll then head back to Castle Black. He will finally meet up with Sansa. Sansa will go to Bear Island and the Mormonts, raise her army from there. And then the entire North will attack down, just how everything's going so far with all my predictions I've made. There is an extra prediction thing I like to throw in, but we'll throw that in when we get to Winterfell.
And we know that the White Walkers are back in it again. We saw them in the trailer, so I don't know when...
We saw them in Bran's vision.
Oh, okay, yeah. God, everything's just going on with Bran. I love Bran stuff now. Now he's actually got to the Three-Eyed
Now
Raven.
he's actually entertaining, and he actually has a use.
Yeah, and he's connecting to stuff from the future, the present, and the past, which is exactly what his power is. So that's all good. I think that's pretty much everything at the Wall.
We got the North, which was a very small storyline with Sam and Gilly on a ship going on a romantic getaway.
This was just filler. Yeah, it was absolute filler just to get it to, what was it, like a 52-minute long episode?
Those,
I have
yeah.
no idea what Sam's plan is. So, okay, I'm going to jump to the books now. So I think this happens in book 4, A Feast for Crows, because between book 4 and 5, they divide half of the characters and tell each storylines that are running parallel with each other. And in book 4, Sam is on the ship with Maester Aemon and Gilly, and he's traveling down to become a Maester, which I think he says in this episode he's doing.
Yeah.
He's dropping Gilly off to his dad's, Randall
His parents, yeah. He's dropping his girlfriend off at his parents. He's going to learn a maester to be a maester for like a couple of decades, and then he'll probably come back and pick up Gilly again.
The same father who he's just bitched about and just explained what a psychopath he is.
Well, I think he said he was going to ditch him off with his mum and his sister.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's better.
Also, just talking of Gilly as well, really briefly, did you notice something weird about her performance this episode? She really didn't seem like how she usually played it. It was very different. I don't know, just the way she was like reading her lines and sort of her voice as well. It seemed a little bit off. I don't know if it was the year off or something's changed it, but she just seemed really, really different. I don't know. That was just the vibe I got. And then the I was watching it with as well kind of picked up on it. I don't know. But yeah, that was complete filler. We've had nice Sam and Gilly moments, but they're just not very interesting at this point. And that's kind of what Game of Thrones goes like. Lord knows it happens in the books. You'll have a really interesting character, and they go for like peaks and wanes of being interesting, and then they don't do anything, and then they'll eventually pick up again. So I think we've said everything on that, right? We don't exactly know whereabouts they are. They're just on a ship in some patch of sea somewhere. So let's move down.
Let's go to Winterfell. We get the reintroduction of Rickon and Osha, who have been captured by House Umber. Now, last time we saw them was Series 3.
Yeah, Series 3.
Those guys went off to go to House Umber. Now, this is a big... Oh, sorry, going back... Wait a sec. We'll go back through all the oaths broken at the end of the thing. House Umber, they were loyal to the Starks. I still think they are.
Do you think this is a ruse? Do you think they're actually going to be in league with like Littlefinger or?
It's part of my predictions, really. But here's how I'm thinking. Umbers, they've given Rickon, they've killed Shaggy Dog. That is a sacrifice that had to be made, I can only assume, to gain the trust of Ramsay. Now, if he bent the knee, Ramsay would have been really kind of like, he would have been skeptical, wouldn't he? I mean, he'd be like, okay, you've been loyal to the Starks all this time, why are you bending the knee now? It would make no sense. He would be really, really skeptical about this. By giving Shaggy Dog's head, you're literally going, okay, I can trust that guy. He has basically taken down their main weapon. He's loyal. Now, when Ramsay goes north to attack the wall, which he's already said he will possibly do, I have a feeling that, like, the Umbers will take over Winterfell.
Oh, okay.
Now, last episode, I can't remember which character said it, but a character said, as long as there is, as Winterfell will never be the Boltons, as long as a Stark can walk into it, or something along those lines. A Stark just walked into Winterfell. That cannot be just a coincidence. The writers are clever. They did that for a purpose, and that will bite Ramsay in the ass, because based off that line alone, and based off how the Umbers are still Stark loyalists, I have a feeling that they will take over Winterfell, and basically the Boltons won't have anywhere to go. They would have been kicked out of Winterfell. They're heading north. They'll be sandwiched from the north with Jon, the Wildlings, and Sansa and the Mormonts, and they'll be sandwiched from the south with the Vale army.
Okay, see, I'm on the flip side to you. I don't think there is any kind of deception there. I don't know, Game of Thrones is built on deception, but I actually think it's genuine. Like, that is Shaggy Dog's head. I don't believe...
there was skepticism between whether that was Shaggy Dog's head or not, whether that was kind of, they just went and killed the direwolf north of the wall. But
regardless if they're still like loyal to the Starks or not, I think that killing Shaggy Dog would be a step too far, even to bridge some kind of truce an alliance and deception against Ramsay. I think Rickon would forever hold a grudge on the Umbers. So I think that the Umbers...
Unless Rickon has grown enough and Osha kind of said, look, this is the only way we can do this. This is the only way we can take back Winterfell. Because at the time...
Direwolves, though, just really quickly. In the book, I swear to God that Shaggy Dog and Summer, which is Bran's direwolf, go with them. Where is Summer? Where is that direwolf? Because it's not with Bran in the north, is it?
I think it's in the tree somewhere.
Is it? Or is it gone like into the far north? I can't even remember. Like, I know that the two unaccounted for are Nymeria, who was referenced once, I think, in the book that it was seen around the Riverlands.
Yeah.
And, in the show, just Summer. No idea. So, yeah, I was actually shocked to see them back this early because I think we were talking about it in our episode 2 discussion that, you know, tied up storylines, then that Rickon and Osha was a big one from Series 3 that they haven't gone back to. But it seems that this is a series where they are going back to all these old storylines. Next episode, we're going to have more Greyjoy stuff.
They're tying up all the loose ends, which is amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, that's what Series 5 didn't do enough of. Series 5 was just kind of treading water. But maybe Series 5, when you watch it alongside 6, kind of back-to-back, it will be stronger as a whole. But, yeah, a lot of stuff. It was great seeing Rickon back, although before they threw the hood up, I was like, oh, my God, this kid's going to have aged like 3 years since we last saw him. This is going to be insane.
They kept the same actor, which I'm happy about, because they have recast actors in the past.
I do hate when they keep recasting in Game of Thrones, but one thing I'm glad about as well, and I forgot what her name is, the one who plays Osha, she was a Tonks in Harry Potter as well. She is a fantastic actress, so if she is back in it more often now in Game of Thrones, I'm going to be very, very happy about that. Okay, so now
there's one thing that people are pointing out. Rickon is now known as Recon.
Recon. Oh God, I hope it doesn't go that. Even for Game of Thrones standards, like a couple of episodes ago, we just had like a newborn infant being ripped apart by dogs. Granted, off camera, but it happened. That's a step too far for me.
Just remember, they're trying to make Ramsay look even worse than Joffrey, like at least 10 times worse than Joffrey. The only way they can do that is by making Recon a thing.
But I hope that now Rickon is back in it, that people actually give a shit about him, because he was always the Stark. It was like, oh yeah, you've got the Starks and Rickon. Now,
even Jon Snow's more of a Stark than Rickon.
Yeah, literally. So I hope that now he's back, he'll get a little bit more to do, and people can give Rickon the acceptance he truly deserves.
So let's go to King's Landing, where the biggest thing of the series happened. Get hype for Clegane Bowl, people. If you don't know what Clegane Bowl is, on one side we have Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain. On the other side we have Sir Sandor Clegane, the Hound, in a massive battle. I know that in the books, when Brienne goes to the Riverlands, there's mentions of a gravedigger. She goes to like a graveyard, and there is a gravedigger who looks a lot like the Hound. Now, if the Hound is working for the church, and they've mentioned the Hound in a couple of episodes, all 3 episodes now of this series, they have said his name. Now,
it's happening.
What if the Faith have the Hound? Then they could use him in a trial by combat against the Mountain for the trials of Cersei. Now, Cersei actually said, like, I think Jamie said, the Mountain won't be able to go in and kill all of the Faith militant guards and stuff like that. Cersei said he only needs to kill 1, and Jamie said that's a trial by combat that I like to see, and that is what we're waiting for, because I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to play out. I think that they wouldn't mention trial by combat if it wasn't going to come out later on in the series. So we're looking at the names of the episodes. We've got episode 6, Blood of My Blood, and episode 7, The Broken Man, which have been confirmed titles so far. We haven't got episode 8, 9, or 10 names yet. However, as soon as we get those episodes names, I reckon it'll be either episode 8, just like the Mountain of the Viper, or it'll be episode 10 and complete the series.
I think it's definitely happening this series, regardless of which episode it is. It will definitely happen. It'll probably be episode 10, I would say.
They're just building up all of the things, and it's funny that it's become this kind of meme. The Game Bowl has
just years though, hasn't it? It's been going for a while.
It's been going for a long time. Ever since Series 1 with the Lancing contest.
Yeah.
Where the Hound basically saves Loras. Who was it? Was it Loras Tyrell's life?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. When Gregor Clegane was played by the first of 3 actors.
The best one's the new one.
Really, really tragic story about that. I'm useless with actors' names. Oh boy. I feel bad for this actor because he deserves more recognition. He was fantastic as the Mountain in Series 1. I think everyone agrees he was fantastic. He left Game of Thrones to go onto the set of The Hobbit. Conan Stevens, that was his name. He left for The Hobbit, and he was in on an expected journey, but they filmed a lot more with him. He was originally going to be Bolg, I think it was. Yeah. And then when the decision made to change Azog to CGI, they CGI'd Bolg and got a different actor. So you never actually technically saw Conan Stevens in the film at all. So he left to go on to a bigger thing with The Hobbit and wasn't in the movie. Imagine if he'd have stayed on now where he could have taken this character. But we now have a great Mountain as well.
We have 4.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He is great.
Paul Bjornsson, he's a good, surprisingly a good actor for what he's doing. Because you don't even need to act. You just need to go, me squash.
Yeah, you need to stand and then like occasionally. Well, now he's like robot. Now he's like zombie Gregor Clegane. He can do whatever he wants. But with the Game Bowl, yeah, you're right. In the book, I really don't actually like the idea of Santa Clegane still being alive. I like the idea of in the book where Arya leaves him and he's like dying of like a septic wound. And he's going to die.
You don't see the person die on screen. They are not dead. Which gives claim to whether Stannis is still alive. Probably not. But
whoa, you've gone like robotic.
You've gone
boy, this is weird because it's a live stream. I hope it comes back.
Yeah, it's come back for me at least. Hello, Chris. I think we may have lost Chris. So I'm just going to continue talking for a second, just because it is live still. But we've got to have a look at the Small Council next. Now, the Small Council has changed over the years in Game of Thrones. Like, it started off with, like, what we had with Robert, and then it's moved on and on and on and on and on. And now we're kind of left with fragments of it. I mean, we have Qyburn in there, who nobody likes in there. We've still got Maester Pycelle. We've got, the Tyrell. Mace Tyrell, is it? Maester Pycelle, Mace Tyrell. And then we have the Lannister at the head, who I've completely forgotten the name, and I will search up very quickly. But yeah, it's a very fragmented house at the moment. I mean, no one really wants to kind of take charge over things, and it's looking a little bit edgy. No one really wants to do anything on the Small Council, and nothing's been done. But Kevin is the Hand of the King. We haven't actually seen him do anything as the Hand of the King yet, so it's very difficult to kind of judge how well he is actually doing. But we know how Tommen is developing, and that isn't going so well, as referenced later on in the episode. But like with the Small Council, they used to have some of the best dialogue in the show. Nowadays, the dialogue isn't as much because we didn't actually get to see any of it. I mean, it's all kind of done in secret and stuff like that. And I know we're seeing it from Cersei's perspective, we're seeing it from Jaime's perspective, where they're kind of being shut out from the Small Council. But it's, I don't know, it's difficult to kind of judge how the Small Council meetings are going at the moment. We also have Elena Tyrell, I want to say her name is. Yes, Elena Tyrell, who is a brilliant actress. And I mean, as far as her character is developing, I love having conversations with her and stuff like that in the show. She's such a strong presence when kind of in the room, and we don't usually get too many scenes of her, but it seems to be progressing slightly. It seems to be going okay. But in that scene with the Small Council, we had Cersei walk in, Jaime walk in, and for the first time in a long time, the Small Council actually asserted dominance over Cersei. Now, Cersei is in a vulnerable position because of the walk of last season and all of the different events that have taken place. But when you look at it like that, it's actually her own city rebelling against her, or as you see it from her perspective. And that can be dangerous for her It really can. If we have a look next at what happens with Tommen and the High Sparrow. Now, Tommen is showing these slight flares of... Oh, hi, Chris is back.
Oh.
I've been talking the entire time. Don't worry. I'm on.
I'm glad you kept it on track. I'm glad you kept it on track. It seems
I'm
that talk of Clegane Bolt just killed my internet.
I'm on Tommen and the High Sparrow at the moment, just saying that, like, Tommen is starting to show kind of flare and specks of almost Joffrey-like nature. He really is starting to kind of... He's going, I am the king, and he's really getting quite aggressive. And then people are calming him down. It's going to get to the point where he will kill someone through some means or another. And it's going to happen at some point. It will. But it's just kind of waiting for that moment where he snaps. And I feel like it may be to do with Marjorie, because Marjorie is still imprisoned. And his mum's... Marjorie's imprisoned, his mum's still on trial. I'm not sure how much he cares for Loras, but I'm pretty sure that he takes family quite seriously, so he would say that that was another thing. But the High Sparrow at the moment is playing a great game, and I have a feeling that he's got everything planned out. Whether he has planned out, like, the Mountain just walking in and just crushing his skull or anything like that, or as we see in the trailers, an army turn up at the gates of the Sept.
Yeah.
You never know.
I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome.
I can't wait for that as well. I think that might be episode... if we haven't looked at the episode titles, that might be The Door, possibly. Or
I don't think they're going to do it that quickly. I think they'll really play up the tension more, and you'll bring Marjorie back into it and things like that before they get to that.
Maybe Blood of My Blood or The Broken Man, if we're looking at episode titles already named.
The Broken Man could be Sandor Clegane, bringing him back. And then if they set that up, then episode 8 or even 10 could be the actual attack on the set, like that. Just going back to Tommen really quickly, he actually got a really, really nice scene in this one. Just sort of like character moment as a whole. Because what I like about it is, even though Tywin Lannister's dead, you're still getting that influence he had on him, and he's brought up again in this one. And I like that you can see this with Tommen, just how the different divide of people talking to him. You've got his mum in one ear, and then you've got all his other counsellors like Kevin, the words of Tywin Lannister, and the High Sparrow all in his other ear. And you can see that he is skirting that line, as he said, where he has the Joffrey moments. I think he actually uses a line that Joffrey said, where he like screams out,
I am the king.
Yeah, and Tywin's words where he says, king, what is it, like a
man who has to say I am the king is no king.
Not the king. And right after that moment, you know, he calms down. But you're right, the High Sparrow is playing a great, great game, because you know that if Tommen had have stood his ground and been more like Joffrey or his mum or something like that, those religious ninjas would have just been straight out of those walls and ready to take him down. So he definitely is playing a good game. But I like Tommen, but it's kind of a poor follow-up, because the last episode he was like, I want to be strong, I want to be a Lannister, I want to follow in your footsteps, Mum. She was like, I will teach you.
He does the action. He goes to the High Sparrow, which is something that he never go. And then it just kind of, he gets diffused. And
then he bottles it. But I like that, because that's really, really playing up how conniving and deceitful the High Sparrow really is. Sadly, because my internet crashed, my plan has now gone off. So what's our next bit of discussion? Oh, have you talked about the small council yet?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay, can I talk about a moment which made me burst out laughing? I don't know if it was intentional or not, and people need to tell me and drop a comment.
I think it was intentional. I have a feeling that when the Mountain walks in and he's midway through sentence, I think they added in that kind of, oh shit, and then him actually shitting himself.
Oh my God, the reaction when I first saw that, like, I like terrible humour. I really do. And I have to be honest, a well-placed fart gag is always welcomed. And oh my god, that just completely blindsided me when that happened, because I didn't know if it was intentional or if he'd like adjusted in his seat or moved something on the desk or something. But it was so perfectly timed. It was hilarious. I loved it. It was my favorite moment of this whole episode. And then I went onto my Facebook, and one of my friends on there had recorded it on his phone and posted up like, "Did Grandmaster Pycelle just like fart when Gregor Clegane walked in?" But speaking of Gregor Clegane, actually, this will be the last thing I say on it, and we'll move on. They go all out in this episode and call him Sir Gregor. In the book, he's called Sir Strong, so it's much more subtle in the book, and they're keeping it as a surprise. Whereas, you know, in the show, I think it's been pretty obvious who it's been all along, because it's always been one of those plot points where when I've talked about it, when I did my trailer reactions, and even on here, I don't know if it's technically a spoiler when I've said like, "Oh, Gregor Clegane's in the armor," because they haven't come out right and said it, but this episode they have, so I guess we can start calling him Gregor now. So
I'll continue to call him the Mountain.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you talked about Qyburn. Really,
we haven't talked about Qyburn yet.
There's some like child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang vibes going on with this guy. Just saying.
He is a creepy dude, but now he is the master of spies, isn't he? Whispers.
Yeah.
So he will gain a lot more power, and he has his own game running. I'm not sure what it is yet, but he has his own game running.
Yeah, he definitely does, and I've never bought his alliance with the Lannisters. It always has seemed like he's got a hidden agenda there. But
I don't know. He came from Dragonstone, didn't he?
Yes, I believe he did. I can't really remember. He gets a lot more to do in the book and a bit more of a backstory, I think. But I think he did mention that. Yeah, he does have a monologue. But also, he paints Varys in a really creepy way, because he said like, the kids go like, "Varys used to give us sweeties when he asked us to do things for him," and I was there like, "Oh no, don't do this to my Varys." And then Qyburn was doing it, and I was like, "Well, it makes more sense with Qyburn because he's a naturally creepy guy." But yeah, that's pretty much it for King's Landing, I think. So shall we move?
Let's move to a warmer place, Bravos. Arya has a training montage.
She does, and it's glorious.
That's about it.
It's all glorious. But no,
no. She drinks the stuff that should kill you, and she gets her eyes back. Now, I'm not sure whether that was metaphorical or whether she is now dead from her original body.
Did she actually get her eyes back, or do we just see her picking up?
She got her eyes back.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay, I must have missed that part. But I love this
cup, and she got her eyes back.
We don't usually talk about like how the episodes are actually like shot, filmed, and crafted and things like that. I love the editing in this scene. Yeah. How it was cut into her talking to the girl, and I can't remember the girl's name, the one who's been beating on her for all the episodes before. And it's cut into her fighting, and it's cut into doing other stuff as well. I loved all that stuff. I've always said that everyone's been just bad-mouthing Arya this series, saying she's doing nothing. I love characters that do this, that go through some kind of training montage, whether it's Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back, and even with like Bran now is actually with the Three-Eyed Raven. I love characters that do this, and it's been very Daredevil-esque, this series with Arya. And I loved it. And going back really quickly to the Clegane Bowl thing, Sandra is brought up in this instance as well. And I don't know how the actress was playing it, but when she's going through a kill list saying who she wants to kill, she mentions Sandra Clegane, and on the girl's face, there's a very, very subtle hint that, you know, she goes like, "I've already killed the Hound," and I was conflicted about it.
When she said, "I've already killed the Hound," she's like, didn't she not whip her and say, "Oh, actually, I left him for dead"? And yeah, you see her smirk.
Yeah, and it's very subtle as well. It's not completely in your face. It is very subtle how they did it, but I picked up on that and I was like, okay, no, they've got more planned for Sandra Clegane, and that's cool. Before my internet cut out, I was just going to say that in the book, I like that she leaves him to die, and you do assume that he dies, because I think that's a really, really nice character moment between both of them, and it sets Arya up for where she goes to become an assassin, just completely merciless. But if he does come back, which he probably will, because they've been hinting at it all the way, I'll be cool with that. I love Sandra Clegane. I'm on Team Sandra Clegane all the way.
I'm on Team Sandra Clegane.
I think most people, to be honest, although the mountain is pretty goddamn cool.
So we just talked about Varys being creepy in King's Landing. This was him being conniving in Marine, this episode, with one of the best speeches made by his character since probably the chat with Littlefinger in season 1.
Yeah, I was going to say that I was clamoring for a scene like this with Littlefinger or Varys since series one, and my God, he absolutely bought it in this episode. Just he's talking to this. We kind of just thrown into the situation. We don't really know what's going on. I think this woman though was the prostitute, right? Who we saw.
She was a prostitute who was who
luring them in.
Helped slit one of the throats of one of the guards, and then also trapped Grey Worm and Sir Barristan into the courtyard. She was the one who told them to go into the courtyard.
Yeah, but it's just his whole demeanor as well. I love how very slow and clearly he delivers his dialogue, and it's fantastic. I do love Varys when he's like this. And also with Varys and Tyrion this episode, both how they were in this episode reminded me of how they used to be. Like Tyrion is now fun again. I know he's been getting a few snappy one-liners in the last couple of episodes, but he's never felt like the proper Tyrion to me. Now he's kind of playing this game, and he is on the political side.
I think he's just the last series. He was guilt-ridden.
Yeah,
he was miserable in King's Landing, even when he was there, because he was married to Sansa, and he was starting to get better with Sansa. And I feel like if that storyline had continued and he lived with Sansa, that would have been a nice storyline to see out. I feel like the relationship between Sansa and Tyrion will probably still remain reasonably strong. Mm-hmm. I mean, he never hurt her. He was always kind to her. She will always remember that. And I feel like Tyrion's character in general is now starting to recover from killing his father and his lover. As far as that goes, that's pretty big to go for as a character, especially a character who's filled with so much wit and humor. And I feel like he is now back in his own element. He's got no limits, like other people kind of talking over his back and stuff like that. But it helped with the fact that Melisandre and Grey Worm was so bland. And me and my dad were discussing it at the time, but he was saying, what would you be thinking about if I wasn't here right now? Me and my dad both turned to each other and was like, they'd probably be making out.
Yeah, making out. And they were thinking...
Grey Worm just avoided, but just saying like, patrols, what we see on patrols, what we do on patrols, who we fight on patrols, who we kill on patrols. And it's just like, oh my God.
Tyrion's like, let's play a game. And then Missandei's like, oh, my old master used to make the girls play games. And he's like,
it's
okay.
Like, oh, no, not that sort of game.
Let's play a drinking game. We don't drink. Well, fuck. I did like that throwback to the whole drinking game thing, the I have never. And what's kind of cool is, I know it doesn't take place in our universe, but Tyrion says, I have invented this game. It's called, I have never. So I was like, oh, great, Tyrion invented this game. Nice. But that was a throwback to series one where he was in the tent. I think it was before they have the battle, which happens off screen in typical Game of Thrones fashion. But no, it was nice seeing Tyrion back to this. And I like... It's almost mirroring his character from series 2, actually, how when he is he's serving as Hand of the King in the stead of his father, and he is just trying to get this city back on track, back on its feet, and he kind of did in series 2, and I really hope that he does manage to do that in this series. The only thing is with this one, he's surrounded by a bunch of characters apart from Varys that I don't really care about, or a situation I don't really care about. I feel like
because it's starting to... Oh, where's it go back?
You're fine over here.
Chris, are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that if we go back to the storyline of what he was discussing about in the episode, he was saying, oh, we finally found out who the slave masters, who's controlling the Sons of the Harpy. That took him 3 episodes. And Danny couldn't do it in 2 series.
Yeah, well, if you're going to compare Tyrion...
3 episodes. But what I'm saying is, he actually has something to do now, because he could take Grey Worm, he could go to Astapor, he could bring all the masters together, he could slaughter them with the dragons, he could even buy them out and tell them to stop funding the Sons of the Harpy if he's paying for that. They would then fund him. He's clever. And I feel like the characters of Melisandre... She can be useful by speaking the languages, knowing the customs and stuff like that, knowing how to win back people on their side. She can be the voice of the people. I know that Grey Worm can control the military whilst they're in the central. because I know that the Second Sons are still there, and so are the Unsullied. So if you think about it, he's in a strong position, and Varys has little birds in Marine now, or at least he's gaining little birds and he's gaining information. So I feel like they are building a really big tactical stronghold for when Daenerys comes back with the army of Dothraki, which is going to definitely happen.
Mm-hmm. And Tyrion's had he's had experience with both, right? I think he was Hand of the King, and he also served as Master of Coin as well when he was kind of into that. But he's had experience with both, and we know that he could get it back on track. So looking forward to seeing where Tyrion goes this, and I like that he's actually getting something a bit more to do than otherwise just sit around and mope like he was doing for Series 5.
Should we finally go over to Vaes Dothrak?
Let's go to the most bland and vapid character of the entire series, Daenerys Targaryen. Yes, send your hate mail in the comments.
Daenerys Targaryen. Sorry, Daenerys Stormborn of the House Targaryen.
Blah, 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 blah.
Queen of the Andals and all of the islands, the Unburnt, Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains,
Mother of
Marine, and the Slave Cities, blah de blah de blah. Widow and Slave. She should add that to the end of that title. But seriously, like, her character development at the moment, it's pretty bland. She's in a pretty bad place. I know the next episode we've got the return of character names eluding me. We have the return of...
Is it Jorah you're talking about?
Jorah and
Daria. Too many characters, man. The ultimate bro force to win.
The ultimate bro force. We're having a look at the episodes and the episode titles, and Blood of My Blood is a Dothraki saying. So she's obviously going to be stuck with the Dothraki until at least episode 6. And with episode 6, Blood of My Blood, it suggests that they would start following her as a leader, which means that, as we've seen in the trailers, Drogon the Dragon comes episode 6, which means that for the next 3 episodes or 2 episodes, we've got to wait for her to be rescued. Now that kind of Dario and Jorah make progress next episode. However, a lot of people are saying that there was a thing in the series where the way the Dothraki ranking system works is they only support a Carl who can ride the horse or who can mount the stallion. If she mounts a dragon, she becomes the top dog, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So all she needs to do is mount a dragon.
Starts cooking Dothraki. Oh, yeah.
As soon as she mounts the dragon, all of the Dothraki will bend the knee to her, and she will have an army of Dothraki. That will happen episode 6. But until then, I'm excited to see excited to see how they were able to fill in that gap, or whether they'll just skip to episode 6 and not have her in it for a couple of episodes.
So if she does get this Dothraki army, which she probably will do, as you just said, will she then ride back to where Tyrion is and then join those forces with her Unsullied?
She will. She'll go back to Marine.
That's the thing where she needs ships, right? Because they've just burnt the harbour down.
She doesn't know that, though, does she? She would go back for the ships, but she doesn't know the ships are gone. However, if she has the entirety of the Dothraki horde on her side, the Sons of the Harpy will go by the end of the series, yep. Mm-hmm. The Red Priestesses that are kind of lingering around the city, which we know is going to play part of it, will come into things. I think they're setting up for...
Fire, aren't they? And Dragon's Breath Fire.
They are setting up for Daenerys to set sail at the start of the next series or at the end of the next series for her to attack King's Landing at the start of the final series, which I think would be Series 8.
Yeah.
And that is going to be the final series, right? Yeah.
They've also said that Series 8 and possibly even 7 might not have as many episodes as... Well,
they need 10 episodes. They need 10 episodes per series. I don't care how much filler, because they do have enough to filler. They could have Bran do tons more flashbacks, and they could have drawn-out fights. They could have entire fight episodes, because it's going to be a massive war in the end, isn't it?
I think they want to keep it concise, though, because we saw what all the filler does in Series 5. Nothing was happening, and it was just an absolute drag, whereas this one, every episode, something is happening, things are moving forward, characters are dying, events are happening. And I think if all of a sudden Series 7 happened, and again it was...
I still don't think at the end of the series, what they were saying was it 6 or 8 episodes per series for the final 2 series?
I think it was 6 because they wanted to save the budget so that their final series they could go out.
The problem with 6 is you don't have 6 isn't enough to complete a series. It isn't. And 10 works out pretty well so far. The famous episode 9, where everything happens, needs to still happen in the series. If we look at how much time they've got left to tell the story of Game of Thrones, we're on week 3, right, of this series. 7 more weeks, so that's 7 episodes, plus 6, 13, plus another. So there's 20 episodes left based off this. 2 series from now. I don't think they can finish the story in 2 series from now. I reckon they could do it in maybe 25 episodes. I don't think they could do it in 20.
So you think 2 more series and then possibly a movie or a mini-series?
2 more series, and if I wanted to see a movie, I wouldn't want to see it about the final battle.
That's what it would be about, though. That's honestly
in my head. Okay, I want to see 2 movies. I want to see one of the final battle, and I want to see one of the battle. What's it called? The battle with Robert's Rebellion.
Well, they have been talking about doing a prequel series, haven't they? But that's just because Game of Thrones is a moneymaker and they don't want it to end. So that's why they're pushing for more series. And then when it does end, they want to do a prequel series so they can keep making money.
I would watch that. I don't care. But
we know how it all ends. We know how it ends. We know which characters will stay alive, so there won't be that much tension in it. Although it would be cool to see. Don't get me wrong, but maybe as a brand flashback.
Just remember, in the trailers, we see someone being backstabbed in a dark place, meaning we will still get to see parts of Robert's Rebellion, including Jaime backstabbing Aerys.
That'd be cool to see. If we do go back to all these things that were hinted at, that'd be cool. I just want to see Mark Addy back with his warhammer, smashing it down onto Rhaegar Targaryen's face. I think that would be awesome to see that.
Quickly before we finish this, can we talk through just very, very quickly the oaths breaking in this episode? Because this episode's like there's Oathbreaker. So first of all, Beyond the Wall, Tower of Joy, oath broken. I wouldn't say yet, because they haven't confirmed what's in the tower. I would say at the wall, oath broken, definitely. The oaths broken by the knights. The members of the oaths broken by Jon leaving the watch. We've then got the North, Sam breaking his oath to Gilly to look after her. At Winterfell, we've got House Umber breaking their oaths. We've got in King's Landing. Was there any oaths broken there?
I'm trying to think. Oaths broken. Maybe to the gods in terms of like the high sparrow. I mean, we're probably reaching quite a lot now to try and get it to the title, but
Arya, there was no oaths broken. However, she did lie a couple of times in the episode about Sandor Clegane. In Marine, Varys is able to get information by a person breaking their oath. And then finally, in the temple, they say that Daenerys should have gone straight to the temple. She shouldn't have gone and explored the world. So that is an oath broken, and that is her fate being decided by the Dosh Khaleen. Yeah.
So, I mean, Game of Thrones are always usually really good with this. I mean, sometimes you get very on-the-nose titles like the Mountain versus the Viper. But in this case, I do like the ones where, because even the ones we've been reading out for like the future episodes, we are trying to think like which.
I'm just going to read through them quickly. So the next episode is called The Book of the Stranger. We've then got The Door, Blood of My Blood, and then The Broken Man. So make that of you will.
Broken Man is the one that I'm most looking forward to because we were talking a bit before we even started recording of what we thought that the Broken Man could be, and there's definitely a lot of options that it could
We think it is the Hound.
It could be the Hound, it could be Jon Snow, it could be any number of people, just anyone that's been going through a hard time, and pretty much everyone's going through a hard time in Game of Thrones at the minute. So I think we've pretty much covered everything. Have you said everything?
Yeah, no, I've said everything I wanted, yeah.
Well, we've given some more speculation, given some more predictions. Mostly the one we're pushing for is Clegane Bowl, which may or may not happen this series. We hope it does. Yes, so that'll do it for our discussion on episode 3. Oathbreaker, be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this episode. Personally, for me, I would say this has been my favourite episode of the series so far. There was definitely a lot of stuff going on in this episode. I'd like to see some characters go back to how they used to be. So yeah, please do leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of this and how do you think this series is shaping up so far. Do you like it? And if you have any theories or speculation of your own, if whether you agree with us or you have your own, please do leave that below too. So we will be back next week, possibly with a George, because he's wanted to get on these conversations with us, but he's been busy with projects and work and things like that. But he should be on for the next episode and throughout the rest of the series, we hope. So yeah, I mean, I'm loving these Game of Thrones conversations. I'm looking forward to the next one because Series 6 is really shaping up to be something special so far. So we'll be back with more movie reviews and possibly some reactions from me along the way. But until next week, we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.